Hello, good evening, and welcome back to our live event. It's Friday evening, 8 p.m. UK time, so it is definitely time to start our live event with Andrea. Hi, Andrea. How are you feeling? Hope you are
Hi.
well.
Hi, I'm very well. Thank you for inviting me once again. It's a pleasure to be here today.
And we are very happy to have you back with us. And as always, I am your host, Caroline. And please let us know that you can hear us loud and clear so we can make sure that all is working properly. And of course, we have a very interesting, very important topic to discuss today. So, before we start with Andrea's presentation, let me just simply explain how everything is going to work. So, we will start with a presentation, and after the presentation, it will be time for your questions. So I encourage you to ask any questions that you have in mind so that Andrea can help you out. And as you possibly know already, Andrea has many, many interesting tips to provide you, and I'm sure she'll be more than happy to help you out here today as well. And as you can see, the topic for today is the importance of emotional support during fertility treatment. Therefore, don't miss this opportunity and type the questions in the chat section. And after the presentation, Andrea will be happy to answer them. And remember, this is being recorded, so of course, you will still have a chance to re-watch this. And I just also want to add that Andreia Trigo is a multi-awarded nurse consultant, author, and TEDx speaker, but also a founder of the Enhanced Fertility Program. So she has been very, very busy during the summer as well,
Mm.
and she has more and more things coming up. So we are very, very excited to have you back with us. This is our first webinar in September, but there will be more of those coming up. So we are very, very happy to have you on board with us.
Thank you.
And well, I think this will be it from me right now. Andrea, ready?
Ready. Thank you so
Excellent.
much for having me here, Caroline, and thank you so much for all of you who have chosen to be here today to learn a bit about the importance of emotional support during fertility treatment. Like Caroline said, I've been super busy, especially since the coronavirus pandemic, because emotional support became even more important when so many patients had to have their treatment cancelled. So today I'm going to expand a bit more on the topic of emotional support. We're going to look at some very interesting data and research about emotions and what feelings do patients experience when they are going through fertility treatment, and also what works when you need emotional support. So we're going to look at very interesting information today. But before we continue, I just wanted to tell you a bit about myself. Like Caroline said, I am a nurse, and I've dedicated my life to helping men and women cope with the losses of infertility and improve their physical and their emotional health. But my passion and my drive to help couples comes from my own journey of infertility. I was actually diagnosed with infertility at a very young age. I was just 17 years old when I was told I didn't have a uterus, and it was very challenging for me to cope with the loss of my dreams. So that prompted me a few years ago to give back to this community, and at the same time to challenge myself, because I truly understand what you are going through. So combining that personal experience that has been so powerful, it has been over 20 years now, and my professional experience as a nurse is what I have to offer. So I'll give you some of those coping skills and some of those strategies in this presentation today. So all of those skills that I have, I've combined in something that is called the Enhanced Fertility Program. And I'm so passionate about it because I want to make fertility support available to anyone, everyone in the world at no cost. Because so, like many of you are aware, so many times you need to pay to get emotional support. So it's not part of your fertility treatment, and I feel that it should be, because if there's anything that is guaranteed in this journey, is not a baby. You may or may not get a baby, but the emotional distress, you will get through it. So support, emotional support, must be made available to everyone, and that is something I've been working on for a long time. So for me, my mission is to create this accessibility to care and support worldwide, to make it available to everyone so that they have the treatment and the support they need when they need it. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. If you want to learn a bit more about my journey, up until here, you can go on YouTube and also watch my TEDx. It's been quite an important part of my life, coming out about my journey and how I've been able to grow beyond it. So I'd like to start from the beginning, because we talk about emotional support and it almost seems like it's such a vague concept, and you may not be aware, but there are actually guidelines and policies when it comes to emotional support. So NICE here in the UK has produced a statement about fertility care, and they've mentioned that people who are having problems conceiving should be offered counseling before, during, and after investigations and treatment for their fertility problems. So many of you are thinking, I have not been offered counseling, I have not been offered support, I wasn't even aware that it existed, or maybe I had to pay extra for it. But NICE recommends that it should be available and be offered to everyone before, during, and after. They recognize that it's a big need. And they continue by saying that people experiencing fertility problems should be offered counseling because fertility problems themselves and the investigations and treatment for those problems can cause emotional stress. It's one of the most challenging times in people's lives. So, individuals who are experiencing fertility problems, the recommendations are that they should be informed that they may find helpful to contact a fertility support group. They should be informed by their doctors that offering counseling, because fertility problems themselves and investigations can cause psychological stress. It should be offered before, during, and after investigations and treatments, irrespective of the outcome of these procedures. And it should be provided by someone who is not directly involved in in the management of the individual's, couples, or fertility care. So someone who is impartial to that fertility care. So the guidelines are available since 2017, saying that it should be an integral part of treatment. Then we also have guidelines from HFEA, who is the regulator of fertility clinics here in the UK. And they state that the standard of care requiring all clinics to set out a policy outlining how women, donors, and their partners will receive appropriate psychosocial support from all staff before, during, and after treatment. And it's really interesting that they mentioned all staff. So your support will come not only from the counselors and the psychologists, but will come from the doctors themselves, from the nurses, the embryologists, so the whole team. And clinics need to have a policy in place explaining how they are going to provide that psychosocial support. And HFA guidelines continue by saying that this emotional well-being and support should be embedded in all interactions that women and their partners have with the clinic, and the emphasis should be on simple, practical improvements which can be adapted to specific groups and resources. So again, you might be thinking, I haven't received any of that in my clinic, or I've received some of it, but there's usually a tendency to make treatment more physical instead of emotional. But it's important to be aware that the guidelines are available and the treatment should encompass the physical and the emotional. Then I would like to talk to you about the research as well. There was a very big piece of research that was done in 2016 by Fertility Network UK and Middlesex University, looking at the state of emotional support of couples who are trying to conceive. And it might be that the data that I'm going to show you today is not surprising to you, but it's important to see it because you will know that you are not alone. The things that you are experiencing are not unusual. So let's go ahead to the first slide. And here in this first slide, it was one of the outcomes of this research by Fertility Network UK, where we are looking at the psychological impact of fertility problems and treatment. And so this might not come as a surprise to many of you, or you might even say, oh my God, I am not alone in feeling sad, frustrated, having fears or worries, feeling out of control, helpless, stressed, tearful, inadequate, being angry, feeling isolated because no one else understands what you're going through, the despair of trying and trying and not being successful, low confidence, talking about your confidence levels in the treatment that is not that maybe is going to work or not going to work, or being a confident person feeling that you can achieve the things that you want to achieve in life, having poor concentration, loss of sex drive, depression, guilt, shame, lack of support, and the most surprising, the suicidal thoughts, the suicidal ideation. So when we look at this chart, we can understand the weight and the consequences of infertility are not just physical. The consequences are emotional. And these emotions will have consequences on the way we feel about ourselves, the way we feel about other people, and the way we interact with other people, and the way we interact with our partners. So, in this question in particular of the study that was done, respondents felt on average sad, frustrated, and worried. Can you imagine? On average, that's how you feel. You don't feel on average okay. You don't feel on average happy most of the time. You feel most of the time, or on average, you feel sad, frustrated, and worried. And so, if you feel like that, know that you're not alone. And 42% were experiencing suicidal feelings. So these are facts. These are things that are happening as we are talking about them. Someone out there who is experiencing infertility is having suicidal thoughts as a consequence of those fertility challenges. So it's important that we acknowledge as healthcare professionals that this is the fact. And the patients who are presenting in front of us is not just a patient who needs fertility medication. It's not just a patient who needs an egg collection. It's a patient who is maybe sad, depressed. It's a patient who maybe has suicidal ideation in her head. So it's important for us as healthcare professionals to acknowledge that and to provide the adequate emotional support to help patients in this difficult time of their lives. Then here, the same research paper says psychological distress has physical, social, and behavioral consequences. And you might be thinking, if I'm sad or depressed, maybe I will not be eating, or maybe I will be overeating or not eating as much as I would otherwise. And that ends up affecting my body. Or I will not be sleeping a rested sleep, and that will affect my body. If I'm angry or sad, maybe I'm not feeling very social. I'm not going to interact with other people. So, emotions are much more than just emotions. Emotions have very important consequences in our bodies, in our social interactions, and the behaviors we have in the activities that we engage in throughout the day. And emotional distress is also the number one reason for patients to stop fertility treatment. If you think about it, that women need on average 3 cycles to get pregnant, and I know a lot of women will need much more than 3 sessions. Let's consider that because of emotional distress, because of the sadness, the depression, the suicidal ideation, I'm not able to go ahead with the second cycle or the third cycle. This is important, and that's why we need to provide emotional support to patients so that they can feel empowered to have the treatment that will ultimately give them their babies. And that's why emotional support needs to be part of treatment. Needs to be part of treatment, but also much more before and after, just like the guidelines say. So here in this graph, we have the distress score that goes up to 70 of people who have not had any treatment. So if you're not having any treatment, you're still feeling very, very distressed. If you're having treatment, you're also feeling distressed. If your treatment is successful, your distress doesn't go away because you're finally pregnant, and other anxieties and fears will come with being pregnant after such a challenging journey. And for those who had unsuccessful treatment, of course, distress is even higher. So, depending on your outcome, regardless of that outcome, emotional distress is present, and the support needs to take that into consideration. We need different resources for people who are not having treatment, resources for those who are having treatment, for those who had success after treatment, and for those where treatment was not successful. And you might be thinking, whoa, there's so many things that need to be done, so much support that we should be getting, and we're not getting anything. And then, like we said, it affects our behaviors with ourselves, our social interactions, and it also affects our relationships as well. 70% of people reported some detrimental impact of fertility problems and or treatment on their relationships with their partners. So in this graph here, we have friends in these light blue bars, family in the green bars, and partners in the dark blue bars. We can see here that sometimes the relationship was difficult, sometimes the relationship was fine in most of the situations. But there's some situations, mostly with friends, that have ended. And that's because our friends maybe are continuing to have their pregnancies happening very easily. They have their babies and they just don't understand what we go through. So that helps explain why some friendships end. But we also have here on the other spectrum some partners, relationships, some romantic relationships have improved because a lot of couples have managed to grow together beyond the massive challenge that is trying to conceive. So, regardless of who you are having a relationship with your friends, with your family, or with your partner, it's natural to feel that those relationships are strained, that maybe they are not okay most of the time, and it's normal to have some of those relationships ending and some of them improving as well. So if you are, uh, if that has happened to you, or if that is happening to you, just know that you are not alone in this journey. In this research as well, they showed that in terms of accessibility to emotional support, we know that it's important. We know that there is a lot of negative feelings, a lot of sadness, a lot of suicidal thoughts. And we know that the guidelines say that support should be made available. So it's important to look at what actually happened. Did the people who were needing support, did they actually get that support? Actually, only 44% of all patients received counseling, even though so many people were experiencing those emotions, a lot of them who were depressed and sad and suicidal thoughts or feeling anger or frustrated, they did not get support. Only 44% got support. And 54% of those had to pay for it themselves. So it's not included in as part of the National Health Service. And yet 75% of people who were inquired, they said they would like to have had something if it was for free. And this just tells me that it needs to be made available to everyone. It needs to be uh, easily accessible to everyone, because 75% of people who were struggling, who would like to have access to it, weren't able to because it wasn't free. And only 17% of people attended a support group. However, 52 said they would like to attend one if there was one nearby. So there's a very minimal amount of people who were getting support from peers, from other people who were going through similar journeys. And it's so important to get that, to understand that you are not alone, that other people are going through something very similar to you. So you might be thinking, what signs and symptoms um, am I experiencing if I have emotional distress? And it's important to talk about it, because sometimes we start a journey of trying to conceive and we go through treatments and we do what we have to do. And it's almost this roller coaster, and we don't notice the changes that are happening in our lives. And it's only when we look back after some time that we notice, oh my God, I am sad, I am depressed, I'm frustrated. This is not the life that I want to be living. And sometimes you only notice too late. So I would like to talk to you about the signs and symptoms for you to be aware and maybe detect it as early as possible, and maybe seek help as soon as possible, because it's much easier to manage the emotional distress when we find it early, and even when we preemptively learn some of the strategies to prevent it from happening. So some signs of stress and distress can present as irritability. You might not be very patient at work or with your partners or with the things that are happening around you. Or you might be feeling extra anxious or nervous. You might be fearful. Sometimes it's even irrational fears that you don't really know why you are so afraid. Or you might be afraid, for example, that your partner might leave you if you don't get pregnant. Or you're afraid that your friends will leave you or that you will end up alone. So irrational fears about what is happening, or irrational worries about what is happening. You might be feeling very lonely. As we said, some of our friends are moving on with their lives. They don't really understand. And there is a certain stigma and shame in society. So it can be a very lonely place to be. Some people present lack of concentration, because it almost feels like fertility takes 24/7 of our time, thinking about it, what to eat, what to do, what not to do. What could I have done differently? So it can make it difficult for us to concentrate on other things. Sometimes we have poor appetite, we might be tearful, we might have certain triggers, and anything can make us cry. Either seeing children or a pregnant woman or a song, whatever it is, we might be tearful and cry. Or maybe we might be restless. We are trying to keep ourselves so busy that just so that we don't feel, so just so that we don't notice the voids, the emptiness that infertility has caused in our hearts. Other signs that you might be looking at: nail biting, trying to rush around, lack of eye contact, the appearance of disinterest or disengagement, so you're not enjoying other activities as you would otherwise. So if you have some of these symptoms, and if you notice that they happen most of the time instead of just sometimes, it's something to be aware of. and you might need some help. I work with a psychologist at the Enhanced Fertility Program, and she created this checklist, which I think is so useful for patients to use to know when to seek for help. And the first question you need to ask yourself is if you've been feeling down for 1 or 3 months, feeling down for that long period of time, or maybe in a week or in a month, in a shorter period of time, you felt that your emotions and your mood just went down dramatically from being okay to being deeply depressed and sad dramatically. If you answered yes to this first question, you need to seek help. The second question you need to ask yourself: my emotional state significantly affects my work, social life, and personal relationships. And I know that this is true for a lot of you. If your answer is yes, if you feel that your work, social life, personal relationships are affected, you need to seek help. The third question is: I have no pleasure in activities I used to enjoy before. I feel confusion, apathy, sadness, or anger. Again, these are all normal emotions to feel, but if it's taking most of your time and the things that you used to enjoy, maybe going for a walk, reading a book, doing a hobby, whatever activity you used to enjoy, you're not doing it anymore, then it's time to seek help. Or the last question is if you are having intrusive thoughts and self depreciative moments where you are thinking very little of yourself, low self esteem, low self worth, or intrusive thoughts, negative thinking most of the time. So, if you've answered yes to any of these questions, to one or more, it's time to ask for help. And it's time to maybe get some strategies, some skills. It is absolutely possible to develop skills to to change things around, to start feeling a bit better. So there's different types of support available, and I thought it would be useful again to bring some of the data from the research that was done by Fertility Network UK. 75% of people who used counseling, they found it useful, but counseling is not the only way to get support. People who went for counseling, things that they found helpful was understanding the facts, the things that they can expect, exploring or dealing with new feelings, having someone impartial to talk to, someone who understood and normalized the feelings. You are not alone. It's absolutely normal to feel the way you feel, taking the circumstances that you have in your life right now. Counseling helped them accept the situation and face the future, embrace treatment, embrace the future instead of angrily pursuing that future. Counseling helped them in their relationships with their partners. It helped them speak to someone who was non-judgmental of what they were going through. And some people went ahead because it was required to get to treatment. So counseling is not required all the time, but it's definitely one of the best solutions. And one counselor does not equal all counselors. If you had a bad experience with counseling in the past, note that there are different types of counseling. So it's useful to try a second one and see how that goes, because you do need to feel comfortable with the person who you are talking to. Then some other people have used other alternative therapies as a way to find this emotional balance. A lot of people have used acupuncture, yoga, meditation, reflexology, Chinese medicine, hypnotherapy. So a lot of things can be used. And again, one size does not fit all. So you need to experiment and find what works for you in terms of support. Some other people also sought support in order to make some lifestyle changes that would help them with fertility, not only physically but also emotionally. So adjusting, most people adjusted their diet, reduced their alcohol and caffeine intake, adjusted their exercise levels, and also sought some stress reducing strategies as well. So you can see that the emotional support has a physical component as well. And I usually say as a nurse that we can't really separate the physical and the emotional. Every physical problem, just like infertility is a physical problem, has emotional consequences. And every emotional problem or psychological problem will have physical consequences. So the support you get needs to be about everything: physically, emotional, socially, spiritual. So I would like to next to take a step forward into helping you create your support strategy. And this is going to be different for everyone, but it's something for you to have in your pocket, in your handbag, because when you find a trigger, or in a day when you get a bad result, in a day when you have a friend who tells you that she's pregnant, in a day when something happened that you weren't expecting and you are not feeling well, you need to have that hot number that you can contact no matter what. So I would invite you to write down in a piece of paper a table like this, which is called your emotional support team. And I want you to write down the name of a nurse or a doctor, a counselor, a family member or a friend, and maybe an online forum or a place on social media where you can find others who are also going through it. And it's important to have a mixture of all these people. It's important to have the professionals, the nurse, the doctor, the counselor, and the psychologist, because they have strategies that they've learned to help you cope with the feelings and to help you move forward, to help you bounce back and get to where you want to get. It's important to have one friend or one family member because these are people whom you love and trust. And it's important to have the online forums and social media or the support groups because you need to feel you have a place where you belong, where you are not alone. So if you could identify each one of these, it would be, and keep it in your pocket for those days when you really need it. The second part of this strategy is something that you are going to build with time, and it's called My Emotional Support Plan. In here, you're going to write down situations that are incredibly difficult for you. So you might write down, for example, receiving a negative result from fertility treatment. Or you might write down being invited to a baby shower or learning that a friend is pregnant. Whatever it is, you're going to write down the situations that are emotionally distressing to you, and you're going to write down the strategies that either have worked in the past. It might be that you have been through that situation and you applied a certain strategy that was very helpful and helped you cope with it. Or you might even learn about some strategies here today, and you might say, okay, I'm going to write down because when I find this difficult situation, for example, I might have another cycle, this is what I'm going to do. These are the things that I'm going to do when I find the situation that is going to be emotionally distressing. And to help you fill in these strategy boxes, I would like to give you 10 tips, which are my top 10 tips to cope with the emotional distress. These are things that I've been providing my patients for a long time, and I know they absolutely work. You don't need to do all of them, but I would like to give you several so that you can choose what works for you. And if you try something and it doesn't work, at least you have a few others to choose from. And the number one is to remember that well being has a physical, emotional, and social component. So, when you are seeking emotional support, remember that your body affects your mind, and your mind affects your body, and all of it affects your social interactions as well. So, seeking help always has to have these three components in hand. The second tip, which is one of my favorite ones and has made a difference to so many people, is to purposefully engage in activities that give you a sense of pleasure, achievement, and connection. This is particularly important because so many times we lose our identity when we are diagnosed with fertility problems. There were so many roles that we used to have in life, and all of a sudden, all we do is think, live, breathe fertility and fertility treatment, and we've lost so much of who we used to be. So I want you to slowly regain some of those roles that you used to have by choosing activities that either give you pleasure, achievement, and connection. And I'll give you some examples. Activities that give you a sense of pleasure will be activities that bring you joy. It might be, for example, reading a book, or watching a comedy movie, or dancing to the sound of your favorite music. So if you have some of those activities coming to mind as I'm talking to you, I want you to write those down because it's really important. And then activities that give you a sense of achievement. Like we said, so many people feel that their lives are not moving forward because you're trying for so long to achieve, to get your baby, get your family, and it's not moving forward. And so many times you might have even delayed appointments to work, so you might avoid getting work promotions. So you feel like you're a bit stuck. So here I want you to do activities where you feel that you are indeed achieving something. And you're asking, maybe thinking, what can I do that gives me that sense of achievement? Well, something that I like to do is try new recipes. For example, I like baking. So, for example, trying new recipes is a great way to get a sense of achievement. Cleaning and organizing the house is a good one as well. Or doing some gardening, or maybe a hobby that you enjoy doing. Whatever it is that you feel that you're learning and moving forward with your life, that's something that you need to engage in. And the third one, activities that give you that sense of connection, the sense that you are not alone and there are other people who understand what you are going through. And here it might be connection with your partner, it might be connection with friends, it might be connection through social media, it might be connection with nature as well, and connection with yourself, with your thoughts, with your feelings. So things that bring you that sense that you are not alone and you are connected with yourself, with others, and nature. Then strategy number 3 is about practicing a 3-minute meditation. And the reason why I like meditation or mindfulness so much is because when we are emotionally distressed, sometimes we are not thinking rationally. The emotional reasoning part of our brain takes over, the emotional side takes over the reasoning side of our brain. So we're not thinking very clearly, and we can maybe even uh, sorry. I don't know I don't know what happened. So I was saying about meditation. Meditation is important. Hello?
Andrea, can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, but I can hear myself as well.
Okay. Can you double check if it's plugged in correctly, just in case?
Yeah.
And you still can hear yourself?
Yes.
The echo? Or
Oh,
is,
much better now.
okay, so it's
Much
just
better.
okay, that's good then. Go ahead.
Well, technical difficulties.
Yes,
Well,
but all is well.
so I was saying about the importance of meditation and mindfulness because when we are distressed, our emotions take over and we are not thinking very clearly and we tend to exaggerate or maybe think too far ahead into the future and have a lot of problems or feel a lot of problems that haven't happened yet and maybe sometimes these problems aren't even going to happen in the future. So mindfulness is about bringing your awareness to the present moment to notice what you're feeling, and it might be that you're feeling sad or depressed about what is happening, noticing what is happening, but you won't be focusing on what might happen in the future. So bringing your awareness, and a very simple way to do that is through a body scan meditation where you listen to a guided meditation that takes you from top to bottom to your feet, and it just helps you relax and focus on every part of your body. Strategy number 4 is about journaling. So here you're going to write down the thoughts, the emotions, the actions that you're taking, the behaviors. Because when you have an understanding of what you're going through, you will be more in power to decide what you want to do next. You will be able to decide if your actions are aligned with the intention, with your purpose for living, what you want to be doing, what you want to be achieving in life. So writing down, taking them out of our heads into paper can be very powerful. The fifth strategy is about expressing gratitude and self appreciation. There's a lot of research about that. So, people who are writing down at least 2 or 3 things that you are grateful for, it actually starts changing the brain waves in your brain. So you start changing your perception of the world the more you express your gratitude. So I would start with something very small, for example, saying, I'm really grateful that, for example, my IVF answers have organized so many webinars and I've been learning so much. Or I'm really grateful that I'm able to work from home or that I have more time for myself. Something very tiny, and with time, you will start learning more and noticing more gratitude. And self appreciation. Here, it might sound a bit weird, but we are usually not very self forgiving towards ourselves. So, self appreciation is all about congratulating yourself for things that you are doing right. So, for example, let's say that you've made a beautiful dinner and you're going to say, well done, Andrea. You've done an amazing dinner. It's really tasteful. And when you say it out loud, your brain doesn't know the difference between someone else giving you a compliment or you giving yourself a compliment if you say it out loud. So it's a way of growing this self worth, this self love, this self awareness. Strategy number 6 is a grounding technique. And what does grounding mean? Grounding is all about bringing your awareness to what you're doing right now. And it's particularly useful if you notice that you have a worry or an anxiety, and then you have another worry and anxiety, and it's almost like a series of worries and anxiety that gets worse and worse and worse, and you're not being able to control it. So here you want to ground yourself. And to do that, what you need to do is use your 5 senses, and you're going to notice something you can see around you. And I can say, I can see the computer, I can see the stuff, I can see stuff around me. Something I can hear, and you can say, I can hear your voice, Andrea. Something I can smell, something I can taste, and something I can feel. So using your 5 senses to bring your awareness from that future that hasn't happened yet to the present moment. Then strategy number 7 is reframing, and I love reframing. Reframing is all about transforming the things you have to do or the experiences you are going through into opportunities instead of threats. So you're going to ask yourself, if this could have a different meaning, what meaning could it be? Because sometimes we give meaning to what is happening around us, but the meaning that things have is just the meaning we give it. And maybe we can choose for things or circumstances to have different meanings. So if it could mean something different, what could it be? If I had to have a few months of treatment delayed, what else could it mean apart from meaning that I'm never going to be a mom? Maybe it has a different meaning. Maybe the meaning is that I have this time to prepare myself better physically and emotionally so that when I have treatment, it finally works. Strategy number 8 is to focus on what you can do and not on what you can't. So here we're talking about letting go of all the things that are outside your power. And if you focus more on the things that you can, in fact, do, then you're switching your focus into really achievable goals that will give you a sense of achievement and you'll have the feeling that you are moving forward. Number 9, good nutrition, hydration, and sleep. Super important for emotions as well. And the last strategy is to talk to someone. Don't struggle in silence because you are not alone. As you've seen, there's a lot of research and evidence that a lot of people are going through it. A lot of people have very strong, very deep emotions around it. So don't struggle in silence. Support is not a one size fits all. There's all sorts of strategies available from peer groups, online and face to face, from professionals like coaches, nurses, psychologists, counselors, and even social media can be a immense source of support. So don't feel that you're struggling and don't struggle alone. So if you have any questions, I am more than happy to answer any of the questions that you have. And I know some of you are already writing down some questions. As you write down, I'm just going to show you a few more slides. Feel free to keep typing. I would like to tell you that, as I said, I'm launching the Enhanced Fertility Program, which is this platform that makes support available to everyone, which is something that I'm so passionate about. So I would like to invite you to get early access to it. Like I said, it's absolutely free, but it's only coming in November. But if you want to have early access, I have a few places and you can get early access. What you will find is a place where you can have an online course with 5 modules about understanding your nutrition and hydration, physical activity, your fertility and fertility treatment, habits, environment, and managing emotions. You'll have 22 evidence based interventions. You'll have mindfulness recordings, a lot of CBT, self help exercises, support groups. So, all of the things that we've been talking about will be there. And I will share this link in, in the chat box so that you can access it ahead of everyone. Secondly, I want to tell you that support is not a one size fits all, but it's important that you do the things that work. So I wanted to tell you that this program that I'm inviting you to join today has had some good results already. So people felt more supported than they felt before joining the program, and they felt a 30% increase in support. Patients said they improved their ability to cope with treatment, and there was a 48 increase compared to their pre-levels. And patients highly recommended the service. And after 3 months follow-up, people were still enjoying it. So that's good news. And we also have a lot of very good feedback on Trustpilot, which we are more than happy to join with. So, like I said, this is an early access, and I will share the link after all your questions so that you can access it. So, Caroline, maybe we can. I know there's maybe one or two questions. Maybe we can start with the questions. I'm more than happy to answer.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much, Andrea, for a thorough presentation. Lots of details and lots of interesting facts that you have provided. As always, you've been brilliant with it, so thank you so much for this. And yes, this is definitely the time for your questions. So once again, let me remind everyone you can type those in the chat section, and Andrea will answer them for you one by one. And there are a few questions ready. So let me start with the first one that we have right here from Linda. How can I prepare my mind before starting my IVF? This is my first attempt and I am very nervous and conflicted. Thank you for the very first question.
I understand it can be so. Um, Everything that is a bit unusual to us, and because we haven't had previous experience with previous cycles, can bring us a bit of anxiety and worry and nervousness. So it's absolutely normal to feel that way. And because we don't know if it's going to work or not, again, it's something that tends to make us feel a bit anxious. So, number one, know that you're not alone and your emotions on this are absolutely expected. Now, things that you could do, number one, I would say is start with understanding are you afraid of. If you write down your fears, you might notice that some of the fears are not real fears, they are hypothetical fears. They might be, for example, well, I'm afraid that uh, something in the future is going to happen that hasn't happened yet. Or your fear might be something more practical. What if I go to the clinic and something goes wrong and this doesn't have a successful result? So write down your fears to understand, is this a real true worry for which there is a real solution, or is this a hypothetical worry that doesn't have any solution? After you've written them down, I want you to write down everything that you're doing to challenge that thought. Maybe you are doing everything you can. Maybe you are eating the right foods, you are doing the right exercise. Maybe you have an amazing team. So there's a big list of things that you're doing that mean that you are doing everything you can, and the chances of it working are the best chances that you could have. So a list of your fears, a list of all the reasons why this is going to work, and then some of those grounding exercises using your five senses and doing a bit of mindfulness. If you start doing mindfulness, I would say once a day, 3 to 5 minutes. There's a lot of mindfulness recordings available on YouTube, and that can be very, very powerful. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you as well, Linda, for your question. And of course, Andrea, thank you so much again for your answer. And well, there is one more question from Linda. So let's go to this question. And of
Yeah,
course, then we will go for the next one. So since I have found out that I will need IVF, this is all I've been talking about with my husband and friends,
yeah.
etc. It is all I'm thinking about. In the long run, it is not helping. Any tips on how to manage that?
I know, Linda, and I hear this all the time. It's almost like too consuming. It takes all our day. I would say that it's important for us to continue doing things that are not related to fertility. So maybe if you schedule a time to talk about these things with your husband and say, for example, tomorrow between 5 and 6, we are going to talk about our fertility treatments. And it might be that we are not going to resolve all our issues about fertility treatment or answer all our questions or make all the decisions that we want to make, but we're going to decide some of them. And then we can schedule another day, another time when we're going to talk about it again. But really leaving the rest of the time for you to have your life back with yourself, with your husband, and with your friends. Scheduling time, I found, has been one of the most powerful strategies. Scheduling a time And sometimes even scheduling a place, having places around the house where you don't talk about fertility treatment, places that are sacred where you're just there to enjoy yourself. So I don't know if it works, but a lot of people have said it has been useful. So I hope it works for you, Linda.
And once again, thank you so much for that, for Linda, also for sharing. And fingers crossed, all will go well. Thank you so much, Andrea, um, for your tips, of course, as well. Okay, and now we have another question from Natalie here, and it's regarding the course. So, how much is it?
The course will is absolutely free. It's absolutely free, and that's because I feel so strongly that people should have access to the support they need when they need it. So I'm going to share the link here. So
Excellent. Mhm.
what happens when you write your details there, you'll receive 3 emails explaining what the course is all about. And then I'll invite you to a webinar, and you'll be given access to the course by the end of October, and everyone else will get it later in November. So it's absolutely free, and it just comes from the heart, because that's what I would like to have had 20 years ago when I was going through it, and it's just something that should be part of treatment. So it's my way of giving back to this amazing community.
And this is indeed amazing. Thank you so much for this. And definitely, it's going to help lots and lots of people. So thank you so much also for sharing and giving us this opportunity to be able to use it. As well, a little bit earlier. Thank you for that. And well, now we do have a bit of a longer question. So let's
Yes,
have a look. But before that, there is also a thank you from Natalie. Great stuff right here. Thanks
you're
so much.
welcome.
So here's the question for you right now. Hi, Andrea. Good to watch your presentations as always, as I remember of what to try to continue doing. My worry is that I'm getting increasingly stressed and seriously affecting sleep and wake up thinking about problems.
Yeah.
It seems to be of every step of my journey, there are problems that are completely out of my control. Problems with previous cryocarias, almost missing the retrieval, problems with donors, etc. And the latest problems with the sending clinics and biologists packing of our samples for transport. This latest problem might result in us losing our embryos from our 12th cycle. We won't know until they are defrosted at the transfer. I can't believe how many things have gone wrong. The only thing that keeps me going is that the receiving clinic is great, as per the amazing embryologists there. So hope they can save the day. How do I stop thinking and researching everything 24/7 for information so I can avoid other future issues?
Oh my God, Angela. I'm so sorry you are going through it. It does seem like a lot of things have happened um, that shouldn't have happened. And I'm sorry that you're going through it. It must have been very stressful for you to go through it. I'm not sure if you are already getting any special one-to-one support, because it can be very overwhelming when there's so many things going wrong, and we have the feeling that other things are going to happen that are also wrong. This is what we call in psychology the self-fulfilling prophecy. And the way it works is we something happens that goes wrong, and we believe that something else is going to happen wrong, and then things end up happening wrongly, and it reinforces the initial belief, and then things continue going wrong. So there definitely needs to be a way, number one, to break the cycle, and secondly, to learn how to control this or respond to the things that you're not able to control, which I know can be incredibly difficult. So I would say that maybe it would be good to have one-to-one sessions to understand, how can I break this cycle? How can I differentiate between the things that I can do something about it and the things that I can't do anything about it? Is there a way for me to schedule this research process to maybe half an hour a day to look into a certain topic and not to do anything else? do it 24/7? Is there a way for me to maybe have other people involved that makes it less likely that things will go wrong? So I think there's different approaches that you can have, but I think taking that the story has is already so complex, maybe it would be good to get one-to-one support to maybe break that cycle. I understand how challenging it is to feel that everything is going wrong. I have been there. So I do understand, Angela. But I think that would probably be the best way to help you break the cycle so that then finally something starts going well and then everything else starts going well for you as well.
And thank you so much for this. And Angela, definitely fingers crossed that it's going to be all better and you will see some positive things very, very soon as well. And of course, there is a thank you from Angela here for you as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And at least at this point, we do not have any questions. We will be slowly finishing, but of course, this will be like the final call for the questions. If you have any left, this is your time to type those in. If not, we will be finishing. But I already would like to thank you, Andreia, for joining us tonight. Not only tonight, but of course for all the support you have already provided, and you are continuing to do that. So we are very, very happy to have you on board with us. And well, is there anything else you would like to add?
Well, I would like to say that all of you who have been here today, you're clearly have an interest in emotional support. So maybe some of those feelings that we were talking about earlier today, you are going through them. So just know that you are not alone. And I will keep you in my thoughts, um, and sending you a big hug and big wishes to everyone on this difficult journey.
Couldn't agree more. Exactly. Thank you so much for this, of course, as well. Someone is typing, so I definitely want to make sure if it's a question, it is a thank you. So thank you so much for this. And as Andrea said, we are definitely here to support you, and we definitely want to wish you all the best. And well, I can only also add that we will be back here on Monday, and actually it's going to be a bit of a marathon because we will going to have every webinar every single day for starting from Monday. So stay tuned. There are many, many interesting events. There are plenty of webinars to choose from, any kind of topics that might be interesting to you. So don't miss your chance and ask questions. This is what we are here for. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight, for your questions as well. And I definitely hope to see you all here on Monday. And as well, let me remind you that this has been recorded. So of course you will be able to find it on our myivfanswers.com website, but also it will be uploaded on our YouTube channel. So subscribe, that way you will be notified when the video is uploaded. It will be ready on Monday. And of course, you can find all of our upcoming events also on our myivfanswers.com. And once more, let me just remind you that if you would like to get in touch with Andreia, you can use the button after the webinar. You will see a website, and there you can contact Andreia straight away. I'm sure she will be more than happy to help you out as well.
Yeah.
And definitely, thank you so much for your assistance. Andreia will be back with us in
Yes.
October. So there is another event coming up on the 14th of October. So already you can actually register. Go ahead and do it that way. You will not miss that webinar as well. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a lovely weekend and see you back here on Monday. Andreia as well. Thank you so much and have a lovely evening. Bye.
Bye.